Hello and welcome back to EVSwap. I'm Jimmy and I'm a car enthusiast. I take cars like this Land Cruiser and make them electric. We got some updates for you this week, so let's get into it. The big news is we had Jerome from Out of Spec Renews come over and check out the shop. He did a video on my Land Cruiser, he did a video on the Frontier, and it's gonna be awesome. So make sure you check out Out of Spec Renew. While I was doing that video, I had some damage happen to the Land Cruiser. Nothing major, but I've got this circuit breaker. It's kind of a cheap, really cheap Chinese circuit breaker, and it failed somehow internally while I was doing donuts and I was spinning the tires back and forth. So anyway, I got a new one, Blue Sea Systems, much higher quality circuit breaker that I'm going to use for this. This is for the power steering. Remember, we have the Electrek power steering pump over there, and the circuit breaker that I use for it failed. And it's an 80 amp circuit breaker because this power steering pump, they say on the internet, can take up to 80 amps. So we're gonna go ahead and we'll install the Blue Sea Systems circuit breaker instead, and then hopefully we won't have that problem anymore. It'll just pop the circuit breaker instead of destroying itself internally or whatever happened. Okay, Electrek, we got the battery. Last week I couldn't get connected to the BMS, but this week I'm fully connected. You can see we have all the cell voltages for all 30 cells. We have maximum and minimum. You can see the maximum cell or voltage, total voltage, 114.7. Current, state of charge, all this stuff's going on. So the BMS is basically working, but I can only connect via USB. The Bluetooth module is not working. So if anybody out there has experience with these Dolly BMS systems, is there something I need to do to make the Bluetooth work? I can't seem to connect to it through the Android Bluetooth connection, nor can I make the app do anything. So looks like we got some company outside. Yep, there they go. Looks like they're working on their formation flying. They've been doing laps all morning. So anyway, I really want to get the BMS or the Bluetooth working on this BMS because it's going to be in the Electrek inside the tunnel. I don't want to cut any holes in the tunnel to run a USB through it. I would just like it to have the Bluetooth so that when you want to check the BMS, check on the battery, you can just pull up your phone and check on it. You don't have to do, you know, get a laptop out and stuff. So I'm going to keep trying on this a few more days. Otherwise, I may just stick it in, and I could probably pull the USB through this plate here, which goes up against a firewall, and then connect under the hood when I need to. But I really would just like to have that Bluetooth functionality. But the good news is it's all working. It's balancing, and all the cells are in the correct order, and they're all pretty much perfectly balanced, all within just a couple of millivolts. So that's awesome that the battery's working on that. The Frontier, so we got the speedometer working. Basically, here is the speed sensor for the Nissan, and it just was not wired in. That's the only reason why it wasn't working. It wasn't wired. But again, this transmission is from the Nissan 240 SX sports car and not from this truck. So the speedometer is not accurate right now. It's reading really fast. It's reading about 15 miles an hour over what it should be reading. So I think what that comes down to is probably the final drive. The differential ratio is different in the Frontier versus the 240 SX. So basically what I've got is I ordered a whole new sensor, but basically all I needed was this gear on the end, and this gear is cheaper, or it was cheaper to buy the whole sensor than it was just to buy the gear. But this gear is from the Frontier, so I'm hoping that it'll correct the ratio and then the speedometer will be accurate. If that doesn't help, then what we'll do is we'll probably just use a speedometer correction device like a Dakota Digital, and just use that, because I mean we can replace the little gear, you know, 10 times and still not get right. So if we get that little box, we can just make it work. Other than that, she's been great. There was a couple little leaks from the trans. You can see this sensor was leaking, so we siliconed the crap out of that, and it's no more leaks. All nice and dry. which is awesome. Also, we changed the oil in the diff, or we changed the oil in the transmission. We ran it a little bit with fresh fluid, and then we drained it and then changed it again because it had just been sitting, and it was good because a bunch of dirt and crap came out of there. So that was a good call. We did the same with the rear diff. We've been driving it a little bit. We drained it out and it looked filthy. So we topped that up with some new fresh stuff. So that's great. We have a few more things on the list, but most of the big stuff is now done. Dave really wants to take the truck for Father's Day next weekend, so I think I'm going to let him have it for the weekend. We have to do a couple small things, like right now the seat belts, doesn't have passenger seat belts, and we need to button up a few things, but I think he's going to take it home for the weekend. We can see how it goes, and if any problems crop up, and otherwise he can just hang on to it and drive it and put some miles on it. So thanks again for watching. We got the whole EV fleet here underway, in progress, you know, upgrades being made to the Land Cruiser and the Electrek, and final touches on the Frontier. So we got a few more things in store for you soon. Remember, my FJ40 Land Cruiser, we'll be working on this guy really soon. The body got fixed by my buddy Steve, so now this is a completely rust-free body, and it's ready to mock up on the chassis. We'll start fitting up the rest of the little components for the electric system. I need to mount the fenders and the body and figure out how much space I'm going to have for the battery, and then I can figure out which battery I'm going to go for. So a lot of stuff going on with the FJ40, but I believe this is my #1 priority. As soon as the Frontier is out of the shop, we're going to start working on the Land Cruiser again. So thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the next episode. Be sure to subscribe and let your friends know if you think they're going to like this content. See you next time.